Okay, we have ourselves a really interesting update here. Via Marco D'Amico on RG.org, we now have the latest in Montreal Canadiens signing talk. No, we are not talking about Joe Veleno again, and we can dive into Joe Veleno and whether or not the Canadiens really are interested in him. But Marco D'Amico's newest piece on RG.org talks about how the Canadiens are far from done. They're still looking for a top six center. Evgeni Kuznetsov is in here, and price. No, the article is not talking about the price for Kuznetsov. It talks about these things all separately. It is the Canadiens, it is Evgeni Kuznetsov, it is Carey Price. Key takeaways from this article, it will be linked in the description, by the way. The Montreal Canadiens are expected to make more moves after the blockbuster Noah Dobson trade. Sources told RG that Montreal is still poking around Jordan Kyrou for top six help, while they're also interested in Evgeni Kuznetsov. The Habs are also looking to clear more cap space in the coming months. So, these key takeaways are pretty big, and we can dive into the article itself to talk about these particular issues. The Montreal Canadiens' busy summer isn't slowing down. After making a splash by acquiring Dobson to solidify the defense, management remains focused on adding scoring punch to their top six. With the center market stagnant, Montreal has pivoted towards wings like Jordan Kyrou, seeking to bolster their offense around rising star Ivan Demidov. The Habs know time is ticking to build a competitive roster before their young core hits its prime. Now, here's the thing. If you scroll down, the article goes out there with some quotes. A source close to the situation said the Canadiens are far from done. I've heard of them still actively looking for a fit on their top six. This is where the article dives into more of Jordan Kyrou. I do think Kyrou can play center as well, which does add an interesting element to this conversation. Sure, he can primarily be a winger with the St. Louis Blues, but in Montreal there's a primary spot open for him at C. Teams that missed out are eager to improve by other means. That's where the Canadiens could try to build a hockey trade, said this same source. The article dives into a few other things. The Canadiens always want to make a splash later in the summer, and, like last summer, they want to reward their core for a job well done. The Canadiens believe that getting a bona fide top six piece would not only help ground Demidov, but could also be a perfect launching part for Kirby Dach to bounce back after 2 difficult years. Despite some rumors online, it doesn't seem like Anthony Chiarelli is in play in Tampa Bay, as his full no-trade clause just kicked in on July 1st. He's got a sweetheart contract at $6.25 million for another 5 years, and the Bolts don't have anyone to replace him currently. Tampa is in fact a buyer at the moment, looking for more help in their top six after striking out on acquiring J.J. Peterka and Nick Ehlers, who had signed with Carolina. Now, there are some other things here. The article talks about offer sheets, whether or not McTavish is an option. We can dive into this in another commentary, but I wanted to go over this. This is what D'Amico writes in regards to Evgeni Kuznetsov. On top of their interest in bringing left shot center Joe Veleno, the Canadiens are kicking tires on another left-handed center, a striking need with the departure of Christian Dvorak. RG Media first reported that Evgeni Kuznetsov would like to make an NHL comeback and that nearly 10 teams had shown interest in him. Since then, we have received word that the Montreal Canadiens are indeed one of those teams, and the fit is rather easy to understand. Due to Montreal's lack of center depth, Kuznetsov would get guaranteed minutes playing next to his former SKA teammate Ivan Demidov. It would also give the Canadiens an extra year to figure out what they have in Michael Hage and Dach. Kuznetsov's camp is said to be mulling over a few offers at the moment and will be making a decision in the coming days. They're looking for the best possible fit at the moment on a winning roster. For the Canadiens, they still believe that Kirby Dach could be their second-line center for next season, but they want some insurance as well, as options when it comes to left-handed centers. That being said, the Canadiens have left no stone unturned this summer, which means they're weighing their options and setting up plans B, C, and D. This makes sense. You know, Suzuki and Doc are right-handed. You probably want some stronger left-handed center depth. And Evgeni Kuznetsov is a guy who last season posted up 37 points in 39 games played. Say what you want about whether or not a lot of those points were accumulated because he was playing with Ivan Demidov, but Kuznetsov was an effective point scorer who had only lasted one season in the KHL before indicating his desire to come back to the National Hockey League. He's just a few years removed from a 78-point campaign in 79 games played. While it's true that Kuznetsov's glory days may be behind him, as he was an 80-point scorer once upon a time, in a season where he ended up scoring 32 points in 24 playoff games, winning the Cup, ultimately, Evgeni Kuznetsov, at 33 years old, still does have enough talent, I would say, to be an NHL player. The question is, though, whether or not he would be any good. In his last NHL season, he only had 24 points in 63 games played, split between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. Now, the year before, he did have 55 points, which is still fine, but you just kind of have to question and evaluate what Kuznetsov would be bringing to the National Hockey League. With this in mind, we have ourselves some more Canadiens talk that I wanted to dive into before we end off this video. This, of course, was the first part. Evgeni Kuznetsov, the Habs want to sign him. Let's talk about a new rumor as posted about there by Frank Saravalli on the Kevin Karius show. This is what he had said earlier this morning. Mike Matheson could be on the move. That's another guy they're looking at. You can be a part of this group and re-sign, and if it's not at a reasonable number, we're moving you. Saravalli said on the Kevin Karius show. Mike Matheson, for all those wondering, is making $4.875 million a year till the end of this upcoming year. And it's already been reported that he wants to come back to Montreal. He was talking with Kent Hughes. They maybe weren't directly talking about contract details, but you could infer that there is a desire from Matheson himself to stick around with the Habs. 31 years old, 6'2", 187 left-handed D, who had 31 points in 80 games this recent season. His production literally cut in half after being removed from that top power play. Oddly enough, this 31-point marker is more in line with what he was producing the seasons before his arrival in Montreal, which I guess is a fine sign that Matheson can still provide value to an NHL lineup. All shots that are getting blocked by shin pads be damned. Ultimately, the Montreal Canadiens have so many guys on defense that if you really wanted to stretch it, you could say, yeah, maybe there isn't really room for Matheson anymore. Hudson, Gooley, Reinbacher, Carrier, Dobson, and then one of Xhekaj or Jayden Struble leaves no room for a Matheson anymore. So, if the Canadiens were interested in trying to renegotiate with Matheson, if his contract demands are a little bit too high, I can understand Saravalli's point here where it's like, yeah, he could be traded. That's the guy they're looking at. You can re-sign, but if you do not want to go to a reasonable number, we're just going to move you. We got no reason to keep you. Now we're talking about Rangers. Okay, I don't know if really Mike Matheson would be a New York Ranger to be, but yeah, we'll see. We will see. Just wanted to toss that idea out there into the universe because, of course, it will be met with some interesting propositions here. Mike Matheson, what do you think is the trade price for this guy? As a rental, as a guy with a sign-and-trade situation, do you think it varies too much? How big do you think the trade market is going to be for a guy like Mike Matheson? And do you think he's actually worth it to be moved? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all these Montreal Canadiens related things, from Evgeni Kuznetsov and the Habs' interest in him to Mike Matheson and whether or not you could be seeing him on the move. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on and bye.